You want to know how to create a fancy infinite scrolling effect in React? Well, then you better watch this video because I will show you how to do it. And spoiler alert, it is super easy. Let's go. Okay, so I will start with this empty React app. It only has this app component which uses this products table component, and this is where the magic will happen. Right now I just have an empty table that we will fill with data in a minute. This table is wrapped by a div that has a fixed height via CSS, so the div will limit the height and make the table scrollable when there are enough rows. And that's pretty much what we want. So of course we need actual data to display in the table. This requires some kind of backend that supports paging. If you have a real project, you probably already have such a backend. I will use a fake API that provides some sample data and also supports paging. The first thing we want to do here is loading the data, so I will use an effect hook with an empty dependency array that calls this load function. Here we will simply use the fetch function to make the request to the backend and write the result to a state variable. Then we will use the state variable to render the rows in the table body. Everything very simple so far. Next, we will create a scroll handler for the wrapping div. Here we try to find out if the user has scrolled to the end, and if that's the case we call the load function again. But of course we need to tweak the load function a bit now. We need to specify an actual offset, so we will use a state variable that starts at 0. When setting the results, we need to append the results from the API to the already loaded people, otherwise we would overwrite the data we already loaded. Then we will set the new offset, which is the existing one plus the number of products loaded from this request. And guess what? We can already try to see if it works. Let's go to the browser. I scroll to the end of the table and boom, new data is loaded, the table height increases, which you can see on the scroll bar. Wasn't that easy? But wait, we should add some small improvements. First of all, we should not try to load more data when there is no more data left. So let's create a new boolean state variable that is initially false and is set to true when the number of products returned from an API request is less than the limit. And at the beginning of the load function, we would return if this variable is true. The second change is to add another boolean state variable that indicates whether we are currently loading. So we set it to true at the beginning and to false after the request is finished. Successful or not, it doesn't matter. If isLoading is true, we will also return at the beginning of the load method, which prevents multiple load requests for the same page. And additionally, we add another table row in case we are loading, so the user knows that something is happening. And these changes give us this result. So what do you say? Was it very complicated to implement? Did it take a lot of code? I would say no. Feel free to tell me your opinion in the comments. If you want to know which small mistake can almost ruin the performance of your React app, watch this video next. Thanks for watching. Bye.